Welcome back to the SilmFilm script discussion for Season 2, Episode 8. This is Part 3. Starting my timer now. Real quick before we get into the meat of this, if you're watching this live, I have a link in the comments section about the for Mythmoot 4, which will be taking place between June 1st and June 4th next year. It's a great time. We talked about it earlier at the beginning of the session, so if you haven't seen that yet, I don't know why you're here. Anyway, the link will also be on the whatchamacallit, in the description down below. So definitely check that out. It looks like it's going to be a great time. I'm going to be there. Marie's probably going to be there. She says Karita's going to be there. If you watch these things regularly, you know who that is. So
Brian won't be there.
I won't
Poor
be.
Brian.
Won't be there because it's far. Anyway, so
Sorry,
hopefully we'll see you there. Anyway, so back to our episode.
Bed.
Back to our episode. So let's start to kind of get into the meat of this. So to me, the intro or the teaser is Melkor in his cell and the stuff that goes with that.
Yes, and any flashbacks to the first season should happen in that time.
Right.
So battle flashbacks or judgment flashback, either way.
Right. Act 1, I feel like we can do the actual trial in Act 1.
Yes. Now, for the actual trial, this will be in the Ring of Doom, right?
Yes.
They'll start out by saying, you fulfilled your time and we promised we would rejudge you, so now it's time to rejudge you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be a very clear idea that most of the Valar are like, and we're putting you right back in jail in 5 minutes because we hate you? Like, is that vibe there at the beginning of the trial?
I think Olmo should absolutely be exuding such vibes. I think Tulkas is a fair one. I don't think most of the Valar actually hate Melkor. I don't think they trust him.
Okay.
But yeah, I think they're mostly Manwë is kind of the example. I think most of them really feel like, man, it really stinks that it had to come to this because you were a cool guy.
Mm. Well, one of the things
there's enough people wanting him to be okay then at the very beginning of the trial, like before Melkor even opens his mouth, there's people hoping that this is going to work out.
But there may be people hoping it, but they may not
think that it will.
Really think that it's going to, like, I think the consensus when he first comes out should be, for most of them, should be that, gee, it would be great if this works out. It's not going to, but it would be great if it works out.
We should get the impression that he's going to be put away again fairly quickly until Nienna comes out and says, hey, guys, come on now. Come on.
Right. Okay, so the trial will be...
Sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry. Hi. So the trial will be most of Act 1.
And
it'll...
There's a couple of things that I wanted to say about this real quick. Because if it's in the Ring of Doom, the trees are right there, right?
Yes, they are.
Yep.
So we can set up Olmo's antagonism, or Tulkas' antagonism, whichever way we want to go with this, with having him look at the trees and verbally admire the light from the trees, and have one of the two of them say something to the effect of, well, don't get used to it, buddy. You're not going to be out here very long.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. I do want that type of line, because the idea that they would deny him the light of the trees and then he's going to come back later and deny them the light of the trees, it works very well.
And it feels to him like poetic justice.
Yeah. Yes. One of the pettiest things that Melkor ever does is when Ungoliant is killing the trees, he knocks over all the thrones in the Ring of Doom.
Hmm.
During the Darkening of Valinor scene, Melkor wrecks the Ring of Doom. He knocks down the thrones. And it's all because of this thing. They judged him there.
Yeah.
Right.
I defy your authority. But it's such a petty little thing. He knocks down their thrones when they're not even there to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Melkor.
Right.
The other thing that I like about denying the light of the trees is I think it paints a pretty strong connection of the Valar with Feanor later in the season when he starts being crappy about the Silmarillion.
Denying the light of the Silmarils.
Yeah. So any opportunity we can get to muddy the waters by drawing parallels like that would be excellent. To the point where I think we could use similar dialogue between whoever tells him, don't get used to this, and when they were talking about on Friday when was it Fingolfin being crappy, telling his dad about the fact that Feanor won't show the Silmarils anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would like at least similar word choice between those two. The
chances of us going along with everything they said on Friday about Fingolfin is pretty slim.
I think was mostly okay with most of the stuff that they talked about. I think it.
Brian, don't be a suck up, Brian.
Well, I mean,
I was okay with it to a point. I think they pushed it a little too far, and I think
I agree. I don't think he needs to be a total schmuck for him to have a decent redemption arc, right? So,
right.
But the general idea of he doesn't have to be selfish about that particular point, right? He can be just what's the deal? We're all supposed to share stuff with Valinor, and he's hiding his stuff. He doesn't have to be
I would like to see Fingolfin call Feanor on Feanor's actual douchey stuff, because Feanor is a bit of a jerk. It's easy to call him on that. It was that they were getting to the point of Fingolfin being very insecure in his own relationship with his father.
Yeah, I didn't
and
care for that either.
As soon as it becomes insecurity, it's like, really? Fingolfin? Insecure?
Yeah, I don't think that's a... Well, I don't
having a damaged relationship, sure. Being totally sick of his brother, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, sibling rivalry, I'm all about for this because,
but have you guys seen Zathura?
Zathura, yes, I have. Yeah.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
That is Zathura is a
it's Jumanji in space.
Yeah, it's Jumanji in space.
Oh, okay. I like Jumanji.
It's not as good
as Jumanji. But
it has Kristen Stewart in a role that she's actually not bad in.
Well, that's impressive.
Really?
Yeah. I thought her.
Stewart?
Yes, Kristen Stewart. Yeah, the girl from Twilight. Yeah.
Yeah.
And from Snow White and the Huntsman.
I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember really liking her in that movie then, because holy cow. But I would recommend you go watch it. If you really, really have to, you can watch it in chunks on YouTube.
Okay.
But the reason that you should watch it is because I think the relationship between the two brothers is perfect. Because the little brother in that movie is, I want to hit him with a chair. He's the worst. But
wait a minute.
But he's not a crappy guy. He's just little. That,
But see, the thing is, Fingolfin is not only an adult by the time we get to that episode, but he's an adult with adult children.
Yeah.
So Fingolfin is really grown up by the time we get to the conflict.
I think one of the points is that he's the younger brother is talented in ways that the father doesn't value at all, and his older brother is very into sports, and
he's a much more typical kid,
right? Yeah,
right.
Boy,
and that's having Finwë called out for his favoritism to Feanor is something we should definitely do.
Yeah.
But making Fingolfin into film Faramir to do that is probably not the right idea. But we'll get to that in a few episodes. I didn't
want you to remember that at least some of the scenes that we're gonna have to set up the relationship between those two brothers are gonna be scenes when Fingolfin is little, right? Like that's
true.
That was
In the last
angle.
episode. In the last
Yeah.
episode, he was young.
They wanted to. That was one of the angles that they wanted to push, was that like he needs to be kind of a crappy little brother when he's little, and that's the foundation of their relationship, so that when he is older, we understand the tension. Like, we basically, if we show him being a little brat when he's younger, then we don't have to do very much to maintain that momentum. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The problem is he doesn't get introduced until like halfway through the last episode, and in this episode, he's already an adult with children. So
we're gonna have to show at least one really great scene where he's being a total brat.
Yeah. Well, he's at Feanor's wedding. Feanor and Nirnel's wedding. He's there, and he's a kid, and Indus does talk to him afterwards, so he can be bratty.
Yeah.
In that scene.
Time for that.
Right. Okay. So
he knocks over the wedding cake.
Yeah. So anyway, back in well, actually, that's not it. Well, actually, having Fingolfin do something a little bit petty as a kid at Feanor's wedding would be in stark contrast to in this at Feanor's wedding as we portrayed her, and it would give an opportunity for Indus to give her little spiel to Fingolfin without it having to be a young kid asking mom, "Hey, mom, what was all that stuff about?" Like,
yeah.
I actually do like that better. All right.
Okay. We'll put it in the script outline.
Okay.
Edit it in. Make a note.
All right. So all right. So we get the little comment about the light. Melkor. Okay. So this scene is going to have to be. It's going to have to be like at least 12 to 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to need to hear from a bunch of different people here. And do we do any flashbacks to like terrible things he did?
If people are going to be bringing it up, then I think doing a flashback is the best way to remind the audience of what they're talking about. Like, if Tolkien is going to say, "You wrecked my wedding," that's an opportunity to have the lamps crashing down.
I have a question about that. Are we going to? I should have asked this during the session, but are we going to allow Melkor to admit that he was behind the destruction of the lamps now?
No.
Yeah, okay, I don't think we get anything.
He's still going to claim innocence on that?
I don't think they would. Well, maybe they would bring it up.
Because if he's contrite, if he actually is contrite, and we're trying to convince the audience he's contrite, he kind of has to own up to that, because we know he's behind it.
I think if they just I think if they just don't bring it up because they don't have any proof, they don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I think Ulmo.
It's tricky though.
Yeah, I think it's tricky, but if up, I don't think people will immediately be inclined to think back to it. And if they don't think back to it in the moment, then I don't think it'll really have a huge impact on their you know what I mean?
Well,
like nobody after
let's try to figure out what are they gonna talk about at the trial then? Because if they don't bring that up, then the war. The Valar declared war on Melkor, essentially. So they can't blame him for the war, even though obviously he drove into it.
They can certainly blame him for trying to attack the elves.
Yes. So that needs to come up, because the elves are now in Valinor, and the Valar care about that.
Right.
So
it should be brought up in that context. Like, you tried to kill these people. If we let you out, you're going to kill them because they're right here now. So,
although the problem is that he can make the case that he did that. What he can say as a response to that is he can say that, he said, you're right, that was wrong. It was out of spite when all of you attacked me. I was angry, and I took it out on people who had nothing to do with it, and it was the wrong thing to do. Like, that's an easily smash. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's a setup for a home run for him.
Yeah.
No matter how you slice it.
Okay. So I think it needs to.
But I mean, I think they're going to be too mad to see that coming, right? Like, probably Ivana would be the one who was most pissed off about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that they see that coming. I totally think we should use it. What I'm saying is, it's not like it's. I feel right, and I feel like because it's really easy for him to use that to his advantage.
I think immediately apologizing would be very disarming for a lot of people. Especially if he really kind of defends himself a little bit about the war,
right?
Where they're saying like, you know, we this war stuff, and he's like saying, look, you guys were the one that started that war, and then they're like, but what about the elves? And then he's like, yeah, you know what, that was messed up. I think that would be good kind of pivot point for him, so that he doesn't look like he's just, you know, rolling over on his belly. Because I think
he has to make it convincing. He has to seem like he's still himself.
Right. Exactly. Like if he's otherwise just out of character, and we're like, okay, give me a break. We know you're lying, right? So all of the war-related stuff, you know, he can concede their points, but he should argue them to a certain degree, right? But when it comes to the elves, he should be absolutely that's when he just rolls over and says, yeah, that was super wrong. I'm totally sorry about that. I was just mad.
Is that the point where Nienna would speak up and say her part about?
I think that's the. Well, what I'm saying though is that I really don't see the Valar not bringing the lamps up. If they bring up the lamps, and he lies about it again, we have totally undersold it to the audience. And honestly, I feel like if he admits to knocking over the lamps unabashedly, not unabashedly, but if he flat out admits to his role in the lamps,
no equivocating. Yeah.
Because remember that this, like, Arian, he accused Arian of being involved.
Yeah.
And Arian's standing right there.
Yeah.
Right.
Which means that the Valar already know Arian's side of the story.
Right. In full.
So do they really need to ask him again?
My angle for that then would be, I think he should own up to accidentally causing the destruction of the lamps, but nothing more than that. Because he should sell it the way that he sold it when he manipulated Gothmog into doing it, right? Like, he's like, look, I admit that I may have said some things in anger, but I didn't expect he would go off and destroy the lamps. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think if he just owns up to it and says, yeah, that was me, sorry. Like, I think that's a bridge too far already.
Okay.
Well, for one thing, it wasn't him, and that he did not physically do it.
Right.
The Balrogs did it.
So if he comes clean as far as what actually happened, quote unquote, then I think that would be okay. But if he just says like, yeah, sorry about that, guys, I think they'll be like, okay, well, sorry? Are you kidding me? We can't trust you around anything now, because we worked on that together, for heaven's sake. Yeah, no. Can we give him a line at the end of that where he says something to the effect of, I had the power to stop it, and I didn't, and that is my worst crime here. Yeah. I would absolutely dig that. Like,
because then it's a brag on top of it. It's not just he's not like, he can't just let them have something. He's admitting to the crime, but he's still bragging about himself.
Yep.
That's very in character. So yes.
And it also gives him space to look magnanimous, where he's like, you know, I realize that I made the wrong choice here, even though he's humble bragging about having the power to stop it.
Yeah. And that Manwë saw in particular, and he can look Manwë right in the eye when he says this, because they had a discussion about it as it was happening.
Yeah.
And so he's shifting the discussion from him inciting the Balrogs to when it was happening. And so he's he's manipulating the flow of the conversation in a way that's not 100% obvious.
Yeah.
All right.
But stands up to scrutiny.
Okay.
Is that the timer?
That is the timer. Do we have anything else that we want to have in this trial?
I mean, I think those are kind of the big three.
Yeah, Lamps for elves and Nienna's plea for mercy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And does Manwë speak at the end? And does Manwë tip his hand that he may believe that this is not going to work out at this point?
If he's offering probation, it should be very clear that he's reserving judgment till later.
Right.
Yeah. He's kicking the can.
He's deferring.
Yes.
Time-honored Silmarillion tradition.
Yeah. All right.
Well, it's also very Valar-like. They have no reason to make this decision right away. They can give him a chance to make a decision later. Like there's nothing stopping them.
Right.
And so I think that Manwë should not be right away. The other issue is though, does Mandos speak?
I mean, he's got to say like a sentence to kind of wrap up the trial.
Does he though?
Yeah, I think he does.
Okay, because he's not
it's still a doom, right? Like you are doomed to stay in Valmar.
But that's
until we decide you can go outside, right?
He can deliver the sentence.
Yeah. He's the doomsman. That's a doom.
Okay.
So, like, say that Manwë is kind of like the unilateral jury.
Yeah, the deal is that the published Silmarillion specifically says that Mandos remains silent during the trial.
Oh, well, that's
at the end of the trial. The trial's over.
Well, no.
And so what I'm saying is, if we're just, it's an interesting point. What it has to say. Nienna aided his prayer, but Mandos was silent.
Yeah.
So that was when Melkor's Melkor does kind of plea for mercy.
Like saying the trial is over, this is what you will do now, does not really count as saying anything.
Well, here's what we could do instead, in order to be more like give him a role in the situation without actually having him say anything. If Manwë, so remember, Mandos has confirmed things that Manwë has said in the past.
Right.
Okay. If Manwë delivers his judgment and then turns and looks at Mandos, and Mandos looks right at him and doesn't say a word.
Ooh.
That's gonna be weird.
I know.
But that would call it out. That would, because the deal is that the Valar are giving Melkor a chance that he doesn't deserve in this scene.
Yes.
And Mandos, of all people, has to know that and know that there's a huge consequence if you screw this up.
Right.
And Mandos knows they've screwed it up because he knows that Melkor's not going to reform.
See, but
we don't necessarily know how much
Mandos knows.
Has.
Right,
yeah, he's not omniscient.
Like
no.
It is gonna suggest if they look at each other and Mandos doesn't say anything, it is gonna suggest, oh, you know what, we probably made the wrong decision. Cancel that.
Well, but we're making the case that the Valar made the wrong decision in inviting the elves to Valinor, and he spoke at that.
Well, he said so it is doomed.
Yeah. So
it's not necessarily a like this is a mistake.
This is
right. It could be more of a
decision, right? This is the decision that the Valar have made, and it will be carried out to the fullest extent of the law, or whatever the hell, and that's good enough.
Yeah.
Or
that's
we
what I'm
could
saying. It's kind of a nothing statement.
We could save his role in that. We could save something like that for when the probation is lifted.
Well, we should do it then too. I think I like any chance we give to have Mandos say words. I think is an opportunity we should take. But
I don't know. I feel like
content,
having him not say anything as often as possible, conspicuously not say anything as often as possible, is even better.
That's annoying. No, that's annoying. I hate that.
We have to be careful that we don't put meaningless words into Mandos' mouth.
They're not meaningless.
He is not someone who chatters.
It's not. Yeah. No, I agree with that. But these words are not meaningless. They are not coming from Mandos, right? They're coming from Manwë. This is a declaration of All
right. Do you want the whole passage just so that you know what it is we're basing this on?
Right. What? Real quick. Let's do that after. Let's do that after the break.
Let's take a break.
All right.
Okay.
So, if you're watching this on YouTube in the future, feel free to like and share the videos if you like and want to share them. If you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe. If you're watching it live, which it should be clearly, we'll be back in a minute.